We're live on Spiritual Psychics TV with Paul Bannister and his guests for Spiritual Talk.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome here to Spiritual Talk here on SPTV. It's 6 p.m. It's Thursday evening. Where else would you want to be? Because we have another great guest this evening. And remember, this is an interactive show, so we'd love your questions. This is your opportunity, guys, to get involved. And our guests have so much experience, so much knowledge, not just on the spiritual world realms, but also how to connect, you know, on their own journeys. It'd be lovely for you to get involved and ask your questions. It's a real privilege to be here. Now, let us know where you're coming in from, guys. Say hello, and it'll be lovely to know that you're there, that I'm not just sitting here on my own, no one watching and no one interacting. It'll be lovely to know where you're coming from as well. We'd like to know what part of the world you're in. Come and say hi. We've got no comments coming up. Here we go. Hello, Michelle. You've just rescued me from my embarrassment. Good evening to you, Michelle. Thank you for joining us over on YouTube. Come on, Facebook. Are you there? Let us know if you're there watching us on Facebook. Even if you're sitting there watching your TV, turn your TV off. Come and watch us. You won't regret it, guys. Come and say hello. And Christine Davis, hello to Christine. How are you doing, Christine? And Stace, hi Stace, good evening to you. And thank you for joining us. So we've got Maureen Clark coming in. Hi Maureen, good to see you. Just going to wait for a few more. And Michelle's coming in from Surrey. Lovely, lovely Surrey. And Maureen's coming in from beautiful Doncaster. I was up there recently. And hi Chris Jacobs, all the way from Stamford, beautiful part of the world. Am I right? That's where Maggie Thatcher was born. I'm pretty sure Maggie Thatcher was from that area. Anyway, Lou Cook. Hello, Lou Cook. How are you doing? It's good to see that cat though in the background. Gabby Sanchez. Hello. Where are you coming in from, guys? Let us know you're there. Joanne Lewis. Hi, Joanne. Hi, Joanne. And Rebecca is coming in from Facebook. Hello, Rebecca. It's good to see you. And also Joe, the Croaking Shaman. Hello, Joe. Good to see you. Jennifer. Hi, Paul and Richard. You've got fans, Richard, by the way. Richard's in my ear. Okay, so if I go quiet, it's because Richard's talking to me. And Joanne's in Birmingham. And Paul Cook, I know Paul's in Nottingham. Hi, Paul. Good to see you on here, mate. Although a picture on here would be good, Paul. And Krish. Hello, Krish. And she's coming in from South Africa. That is brilliant. Brilliant. And Gabby's coming in from Austin, Texas. Fantastic. We really are international tonight. That's brilliant. Vaughn's coming in. Hi, Vaughn. Good evening, everyone, she says. It's good to see you on here. We love it. And also, guys, if you can share, we'd love that. We'd love this information to get out to as many people as possible. And we have, shall we introduce the guest now? Now, tonight is no exception. We have another fantastic guest. We have Minister Colin Bates, and he's also a mediumship tutor at the Arthur Findlay College, where he also organises the courses as well. If you guys know where that is, in Stansted in the UK, it's a very prestigious, I want to say organisation. Well, it's not really an organisation. It's a place of learning. Oh, Maria quickly just said hello. Without further, Richard said hi to Maria as well. Without further ado, Minister Colin Bates. I'm not sure if you're on and can see us, Colin. You're like, brilliant, Colin, you're in. Hello, Colin, and welcome to Spiritual Talk.
Well, hello, Paul. Hi, everyone. How wonderful it is to see you all again and to have this time of talking of the spirit, of the heart, and of just really looking at all the different aspects that create communication and how everything is of the heart and of the spirit. It's lovely to be with you all once again. Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it's an absolute pleasure. This isn't the first time you've been on Spiritual Talk. This is your second time. And our first interview is still available on Spiritual Talk on YouTube, guys, if you want to check that out as well. Colin, I don't want to go back into your history, how you got into mediumship, but could you just go over a little bit for us so people know a little bit about where you've come from?
Well, I was very fortunate that at the age of 16, my mother took me to a spiritualist church because she had, her father went to the spirit world and she never got to say goodbye. And then she wanted to go, so she took me along, and I just stayed, really. And the first communication was for my mother from her father, and he brought all the knowledge and all the information to do with their relationship, and just really brought the healing into the sense of never having to say goodbye, and that she knew that he still knew where she was, what she was doing, and that the love was very much still there. And he also gave a message to me, and he said that as I moved through life, my connection with the spirit would grow, and through that, really, I started to become interested in healing. I stayed with the church for many, many years, still interested within the church, and then worked with healing for over 10, 12 years, and then started to move my awareness more into the world of the spirit and to be aware of communication. And so in about 1989, 1990, I then was taken to the Arthur Findlay College, where I was welcomed and supported and nurtured. And then in the 90s became a full tutor, and I've been there ever since. And really what is just so wonderful is that the journey of life is the journey of the spirit. You cannot die. And that love and life is eternal. So I've been connected since the age of 16. They said I was their first punk rocker. Can you imagine such a thing? All this blonde hair comes down and everything hanging out where it shouldn't. And I'm over 60 now, so that's really most of my life, 2/3 anyway, connected to the spirit. And it's my greatest love, my greatest joy. And now to have this medium, which is touching everyone within the world all at once, we're able to come together in such a way that we can support each other, we can discuss the spirit, we can bring our own universal truth to the spirit, and it's wonderful. So I'm honoured to be here with you. Really, it's a joy.
It's a privilege, and I have to be honest, from a personal perspective, so many of our guests have taught me and touched me so much in terms of my own learning. So, and I'd never expected that when I created Spiritual Talk with a friend of mine, Anthony. It was literally to bring information, try to bring the technology together. And it's kind of been a double whammy. But thank you for that and how you started. And already I've got questions I want to talk about. One of the things I wanted to talk about, Colin, is grief and how we deal with grief. Clients that come to, there's a lot of mediums here watching tonight, and people that are developing, or even people that are just interested in mediumship. For me, grief is a massive subject. It's something that we'll all experience in our life at some point. But as a medium, what is the responsibility, I guess, if that's the right words, in dealing with people's grief? Because, and I said to you before the show, I really wanted to touch on the evidential side, where we can become evidential robots. I've got Dad here, he did this, and did. But where is the spirit? Because for me, I want to touch that person, or that for them to feel the presence of spirit. But that's not always possible. And that's something within me. But how do we even bridge that? How do we come to that?
Well, when we live and when we love, you see, we love forever. And that when we move through a time of losing someone to the spirit world, it's the physical aspect, you see, that is no longer present.
Yeah.
But the essence, the emotion and the memory and the living presence of the spirit still is. And what I often find is that because we're seeking to embrace the spirit in such a way that we're not really aware that they're already there.
Yeah.
They are already a part of you and I, and that never changes. So when people come to me and they've just lost someone, often what I do is I talk to them first about life and about the passing to the spirit world. And of course, within the voice and the speaking, there is a healing. that is starting to take place. Communication is very much to do with the essence of you and I, who I am, who I are, the presence of you and I, and the love that we share, and the memories that are part of that process.
Yeah.
So communication comes in many different ways and in many different forms. When we move into the spirit world, we no longer have the physical ability to speak.
Yeah.
Because the vibration of the spirit world is a much higher one than the physical world.
Yeah.
So when we move into a time of memory or prayer, what is happening is that we are lifting our thoughts and consciousness so that the power becomes more aware of our presence, and we become more aware of their presence, you see.
Yeah.
And so because that physical part is no longer present, I remember you, I remember when, thoughts, feelings and emotions create presence. So when somebody comes into your mind and touches your heart, it really is a form of communication. It's saying to you, I'm still here, I'm still with you. And what many people don't often realize is that that is the simplicity. That is how it's created. And when people are looking for that proof of survival, you see, the greatest proof is within the presence that is created, you see.
Yeah.
Because what is it that I remember? You can talk about facts and figures, you see, but is that pure life? Quite often it isn't.
Yeah.
But what we try and do, because you can never guarantee the absolute, that communication is possible, but what we can say is that we will try, that we will create that time and moment for us to become aware together of your loved ones, and they will endeavour to do the same from the spirit side of life.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah.
And often when the spirit communicates, what is important is that it's not what I want. It's actually the need of the spirit. And the need of the spirit is often, I love you. I'm sorry. I never said goodbye. I never had those moments together.
Yeah.
And often when someone is grieving, they carry a lot of that with them.
Yeah.
You see, because sometimes people are not actually there at the moment of passing, and they carry that with them.
Yeah.
But what we don't always realize, you see, is that sometimes the spirit just needs to be quiet to leave this world.
Yeah.
And that true love is never having to say goodbye, because I'm still here and I'm still with you. So when I'm working with communication, I'm connecting to the need of those who come seeking.
Yeah.
Often they may be within those stages of grief. And as you are within those stages of grief, what is so important is that you take time to grieve. You see, because that sense of loss, in a way, will always stay with us.
Yeah.
But what happens is that we learn through the communication and also through the natural acceptance of the journey of life to surround that loss with love.
Yeah.
And to place it within the heart where it will stay forever.
Yeah.
So we gradually begin to move into that time of acceptance.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah.
By the power of love.
Yeah.
But also by the power of healing. And so if somebody comes to me and they're just going through those stages of grief, I'll say to them, I'll say, well, let's see, because it may not be possible that the reading unfolds for you at the moment.
Yeah.
But what we can do is we can talk.
Yeah.
And within the talking, you see, there is a healing between the two worlds.
Yeah.
And often what I find in such moments is that someone from the spirit will bring them. So I maybe say, for instance, you have lost someone who's very close to you. Say, for instance, you've lost a brother.
Yeah.
And your mother's in the spirit. Then all of a sudden I'm aware of the mother, and then she's brought your brother.
Yeah.
So it's
that's beautiful, isn't it?
That
when that happens.
Yes, of coming together, you see.
Yeah.
And then often I speak to people who have lost someone, you know, tragically, where they have left this world through, you know, various aspects of life, and they're worried if they are okay.
Yeah.
You know, such as suicide or trauma. And people are filled with such nonsense, you see, about people being lost or in the grey or in the ether. And I say, you know, come on.
Yeah.
You cannot be where God is not.
Yeah.
Within the last breath of this world and the next breath, you are beloved. You are surrounded by that incredible love of the Spirit.
Yeah.
And no one is lost and no one is alone. And all are surrounded and nurtured by that love, you see. And that's also the power of prayer.
Yeah.
For when we hold those dear in our hearts and we send our thoughts, we are linking with the divine, however you choose to perceive it.
Yeah.
We are creating that moment of really communing and becoming one with the power itself, and recognizing that within ourselves physically.
Yeah.
Because you could not be more connected to it, because the spark of eternal life is you and I. It's eternal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we bring it into being, you see.
Yeah.
And it comes, but it's all healing. It's the greatest gift of mediumship is the power to heal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. From my own perspective, I'm aware of how close our loved ones are, but thanks guys for sharing your comments. And I'm so sorry to some of you are posting who you've lost. Jill has I'm missing my husband so much. I haven't got family around me. I'm finding it so lonely. It's been 3 years now. I'm finding it hard to go out of the house. I wish, and that's when I'm within a reading, I'm really hoping that that person, that I touch their soul somehow, that allows them to feel that they're connected to their loved one somehow, whether it's and I don't like to names can be difficult, but a name is obviously beautiful when you can give someone their name, but and that's where, from a mediumistic point of view, I've had this and I've tripped over myself where I'm wanting so much to bring healing to that person, and the person, I can't always do that as a part of my own learning within that I feel like, you know, it disappoints myself, like I'm a bit of a failure because I couldn't give them what they needed. So there's an element of growth and learning within that, and I try to be better with that, but that aspect is so difficult. For example, Colin, today I had a consultation with a lady that she apparently I was the only medium that gave her husband's name, which is lovely, doesn't always happen, but she wanted to connect back with me because she just wanted to have that conversation. Now, there's a danger there as well, where the person can then latch on to the medium, and I only want to talk through that medium to connect with my husband or my loved one. So what obviously the medium's got to manage expectation. And it's interesting, I wrote the word expectation when you first started talking about when you went to the spiritualist church and that your loved one came through and gave this message that you were looking for. It just happened. It was beautiful that it just happened. But that people would go to the church hoping to get a message, but not everyone gets a message. And this is a limitation of what we do, and we have to live with that limitation. I don't know how to get around that or how to help people with that. I struggle with that within what we do. I find it really difficult, and I guess, yes, you could say maybe I'm a sensitive soul, but yeah, I'm always trying maybe too hard to please that person.
Okay, yeah. Well, what you have to remember is that that's the human part of self, because when you're moving into times of sensitivity, there is this wish to create, you see. And one of the techniques that I've always used and still do to this day is that the power of compassion will take you beyond how you feel about yourself. Therefore, when I'm working with someone and I connect to them energetically, from the highest that is within me to the highest of the universe,
Yeah.
I dedicate myself to the service of the spirit, and therefore your need becomes greater than how I feel.
Yeah.
So therefore, when I'm focusing upon your need, I'm not conscious of being Colin. What I'm conscious of is being the power.
Yeah.
And the energy of the power. But quite rightly, as you say, you know, you would wish to create the world, but sometimes there are limitations within that moment, you see.
Yeah.
And especially when you think about, say, if I do a demonstration for over 100 people, then you know that only 5 or 6, 7 or 8 of those people will actually receive a contact. But what I find so amazing is that what is given in one contact can touch the essence and energy of 10.
Yeah.
That there is similarity,
Yeah.
and the spirit, bless their hearts, will use the time and a moment to put something across that will actually inspire more people than the person that you're talking to.
Yeah.
So what I always say to my lovely people is, come and have a chat. Let's have a little chat and let's see what we become aware of.
Yeah.
And then remember that the power is an intelligence.
Yeah.
And so it will endeavor to create that which is needed to fulfill what you are seeking.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember that so many different elements come together within that moment of communication.
Yeah.
How the sitter is feeling, how the medium is feeling, how the atmosphere is within the room. Is it conducive to create the purest of phenomena, you see?
Yeah.
And also to remember this second part of what you were talking about, which is so valid, is that I will only see somebody once a year. Because sometimes what can happen is that you make that connection and they want to come again and again and again. And they're starting to live that relationship through the connection.
Yeah.
You see. Yeah. So I will always see someone more than once if there is a need. But I will explain to the sitter that really the minimum should be at least 6 months before you come again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also when I'm talking to people, I'll speak to them about how they create personal communication and how through the power of the heart it then becomes more possible, because the spirit, you see, will communicate to you. Look for synchronicity, look for signs, look for the inspiration. You see, you can be walking past somebody's photograph, then all of a sudden you're drawn to their picture. It's their way of saying, look, I'm here, and I'm with you.
Yeah.
And so communication itself comes in many different forms and in many different ways. Yeah. We will always endeavor to create and to fulfill that need, you see, but there is a magic that is created, and at the heart of that magic is love, and love is the power that bridges the two worlds. See, and within that love everything is possible. But also one thing I would say is you just have to remember that when you place yourself within the presence of the spirit, you are there to do your best, and no one can do any more. And that sometimes we can create almost a destructive element within ourselves, because you've got to feed the power. You've got to create within you as a medium this wonderful sense of I did my best. See? And then it feeds you through the power.
The lovely Tim. Hi, Tim Abbott. He's asked a great question.
I'm with him in a week's time.
Oh, hello, Tim.
Yes, he's coming to be with me on the college. I'm delighted. He's a wonderful medium.
Awesome. And he's asked a great question. Good evening, gentlemen. Can I ask a question on grief? Whilst the journey of grief, of course, is very painful, always an individual journey, do you think this is like my text typing, by the way, Tim, are sometimes experiencing and journey through grief can be healthy as opposed to oppressing it. So am I thinking, so in some possibly pain could be another layer of love, the grief, the loss, the pain?
Well, you know, when we look at grief, we've got the 3 stages of grief, haven't we?
Yeah.
You know, and you've got grief, you've got anger, and then
Yes.
finally acceptance and love.
Yeah.
So you will go through all of those emotions when you're dealing with that. But what's important is that you allow yourself that time to grieve, you see.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who you are, you know, whether you're a medium or a communicator, you're a human being first and foremost.
Absolutely.
And each one of us have to deal with those emotions that are there within it.
Yeah.
You see, and everyone will work through that process differently, you see.
Yeah.
So what is important, because I will also say to the people who come to see me, I feel that you need more professional help than I can give you.
Yeah.
And I have a little list of numbers hidden away. You see.
Now that's a beautiful thing. That is a great thing.
Absolutely.
To have that support network.
Yeah. You have to recognize your own limitations as a medium.
Yeah.
And that unless you are somebody who is versed within the counselling field and you have this ability to talk people through these different stages, you should always recognize that there are many aspects of life where there are people who have more knowledge and are able to help in a practical way, as well as that which we create in a spiritual way. So I have a big list of different numbers, and then I'll do what I do with love, and then I'll say, now I really do feel that you need to speak to someone who can help you further. You can always come back to me, and then I pass that on, and then it's your choice whether you wish to or not. You know, within that way. And communication is one of the greatest gifts of this life and the next life, you see, because when we live and when we love forever. And that degree of separation, like the dear lady who said for 3 years, you know, she's moved through that time of missing. And that's really where we can then start to build that bridge and say, well, I'm still here, I'm still with you, and I always will be, just not in the same way, because it can't be, you see. You know, and whether it's the animal kingdom, whether it's the physical kingdom, that which is touched by the soul, that which is created through the power of love, that which is built upon devotional granite will last for eternity. You see, and it will always be with you. And that's the joy really of what we create. But I think we have to also move into an acceptance, which goes back to what you've said before. You know, it would be wonderful if I was to say to you, I've got a gentleman here, his name was Harry Smith. He lived at 19 Queens Drive, Huntingdon, and he tells me he's your husband. Now, there have been such mediums in the past. Helen Hughes was one of them. Estelle Roberts was another. And one day in Sheffield, they demonstrated to over 8,000 people.
Wow.
And they were renowned for this ability. Albert Best was another one. And so do not limit the limitless potential of who you are as a medium. You see,
that's the exciting thing of what we do, that we tend as having this human experience and having a potentially depending on our programming, if you like, for want of a better words, that we can limit ourselves. You know, and that's the, for me, the most beautiful thing about mediumship, that the sky's the limit. I love the work of Gordon Higginson.
Yes.
And obviously such a well-known figure, but there was many mediums in the past that were also fantastic and brilliant and had this ability. But that's another question in itself, Colin, because we look at society and everything's becoming very, or maybe kind of coming out of materialistic society, but
Wow.
people don't have the time to devote themselves to this. And this is a whole nother question. We're kind of coming away from grief a bit, but that's, people normally have this spiritual awakening when suddenly they have the loss and
Yes.
they lose their loved one. Charlie Kelly, the great Charlie Kelly, he's got an advanced diploma, I think, in mediumship. And it wasn't until his sister passed away that he then became interested in mediumship. And so many mediums on their path experienced that grief of loss and then started to delve into that, which I find really interesting, that I have this kind of common thread. Yeah.
It comes in many different ways. My awakening came when I nearly died of meningitis when I was 3 years old. And I started before they took me to hospital to lapse in and out of consciousness. And then I saw all the animals. And so I had the most amazing experiences as a child. And then, of course, it wasn't till later years that I then began to experience it within that way. One of the things that we have to take into consideration here in this day and age is that we are moving more into the time of the oracle. And the demands upon the medium are excessive to what they once were. Mediumship at one time used to be the sole object to prove the continuation of life. Well, the word demand has come into mediumship now. I want, you see. And the understanding of the power is very different in this age. I remember, because I was very fortunate to study with Gordon Higginson for the last 3 years of his life. And the way that he was trained was that he moved into the time of the awareness of the power first, and he wasn't allowed to touch the spirit world for years. Until he moved into that awareness more of the universal power. If you look at the temples of Egypt, 7 years within the silence before you learn to commune with the power. And what's happening in this age is that we are relying upon the great God of Google, and we are pressing buttons to find the answer. And if you're not careful, you will lose the natural ability of seeking to find answers within yourself, which is the seat of the power. And so impatience can be a great drawback, because everybody wants to speak to Granny, but no one, and that's not true, I correct myself, it's only a minority, don't want to learn how to commune with the power of their own soul. They want to learn and jump and learn it all within a week. Well, within the best will in the world, I can show you, I can lead you, but the blossoming has to come through your own individual expression and experience. And what is it that the experience teaches you and tells you? I think in many ways we haven't helped ourselves because we've complicated the process.
Okay, that's an interesting concept. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Well, because the way mediumship has been taught for so many years, that you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to find this, you've got to create a list, you've got to find who you are, where you lived, what you did, etc., etc., etc. Now, what if you have someone from the spirit world who comes along and says, can you just tell them I love them? Can you talk about those last few minutes that we shared together and the memories that we had? And there's the good old medium saying, I've got this, I've got that, how many kids did you have, how many did that? Where is what the spirit needs in that moment? Doesn't exist. What exists is what you want, not what the spirit needs. So what we teach, or what I teach, and many of my fellow teachers teach, is the awareness of the power, okay, and really communing and creating a connection with the spirit world that then brings the essence, the presence, the personality, and through that process I will bring what the spirit wishes to bring, which will then meet the need of those who come seeking. Because you just have to be careful, you see, because if I try and create it with my mind, I can bring you a lot of fabulous information, but the person I'm talking to may not even know it. They may not even know how many children they had. They may not even know where they lived. They just knew them through work. Yeah. So you have to have a balance, you see, in what you're creating. Yeah. And the greatest point of that should be, I am here. How may I serve you? Yeah. And allow the spirit to inspire you. Yeah. You see, and that's the way mediumship was taught for many, many years. You see, and it's only now that we're starting to go beyond that into a whole different realm of teaching, where we're saying, you know, let the spirit speak. Yes. Let the spirit bring to you what they wish to bring. Yes, you've got to prove it. Yeah. But in what they bring will be their evidence. I remember when, you see. But then also there is something that comes beyond that, is that I know what is happening within your life. I am still with you. Yeah. I bring you knowledge of life, you see. Yeah. So there needs to be a balance of the two. Yeah. And no two mediums will ever work in quite the same way. So it's also about finding the key to your own natural way of perceiving the spirit and of embracing the power and being able, you see, because we're the storyteller.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And my mediumship has been changing lately, where I've been rather than getting these facts and figures, I've been getting actual visualizations of a story. The mum singing to the child in her belly. I had that. It's beautiful. It almost moved me to tears, Colin. And that in itself is another, maybe that's me progressing and learning and opening, but that was so moving. This is the thing with mediumship, I then have to deal with that within myself. And there's another level of healing and growing within myself before we even bring the communication between the sitter and the communicator from the spirit world. So there is so many possibilities that could go wrong, and understanding self is really, really important, that we're on this continual journey of development, which is why, I mean, I'm going to give it a shout out. The Arthur Findlay College is the best at teaching. It is world renowned. It is a wonderful place. I've been there a few times and it's met some great people, and it's more of a community feel, because it's a tough old life being a medium. It's not easy.
Totally.
And you get ridiculed, people are skeptical, which is absolutely fine. Everybody has the right to their own opinion, but there is a lot of pressure. This is not an easy path for people, is it?
No,
it's not.
No, it isn't. But if you look at the pathway of the sensitive, you see, mediumship is a gift of the soul. It's not something you learn, it's something that you are. And what I truly believe is that people who have the mediumistic faculty of the soul will always have something in common. That is, you will question your existence. You will wonder why you're here. There'll be times when you wonder, should you be here? There'll even possibly moments when you don't even want to be here. And I believe it's because that there is an awareness of the soul of the other world, and that there is a part of the consciousness that is here in this life, but there is also a part that is within the spirit world. And as the sensitive, you will always have to watch your physical emotional balance, because that's where it will hit you the most, you see. But what we learn, you see, is the stability, is to build that internal stability. And the greatest word is trust.
Yeah.
Because there has to be some point where you embrace your power as a medium, and you know that you are the medium, because then you will never doubt yourself again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's also about creating a faith.
Yeah.
And embracing faith. See, I can tell you, you can tell yourself, but until you believe it, you won't accept it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely, 100%. Krish has put a really good, or asked a really good question. Hi, Krish. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to. I just, Colin, I can listen to you for hours, so I'm sorry if I've missed a few questions on here. But Krish, do you believe that our grief makes the veil between this world and the spirit world denser, so it is more difficult for our loved one to reach us and us them?
Well, grief touches the emotions, you see, but it is a fact of life. It is a part of the journey of life. And so what you mustn't do is to go against that grief, you see, because if you don't allow the natural healing process within your own grief, you see, because also, you know, if you think about the spirit world and somebody moves into the spirit world, they're going to miss somebody in this world.
Yeah.
They're going to go through their own stage of letting go of the pain. They're going to go through their own stage of letting go of the trauma.
Yeah.
And the realization that they are now in a different state of peace.
Yeah.
Where they are in another dimension of consciousness, where they have that time and that moment to be able to be multifaceted, because you can have a communicator talking and being aware of more than 3 members of the family at once at the same time. Yeah. So I think what a beautiful question, but you also have to be kind to self.
Yeah.
Because you've got to really be kind through those times and allow the love that is between you and of the spirit to support you through it and with it, because it does change, never go away, because it just changes into another moment, another facet. And also when somebody moves into the spirit, the power of healing and the power of prayer will surround and cushion the soul on its next stage of evolution. And never underestimate the power of prayer, because the power of prayer is creation, and miracles still exist in this life. They're not forgotten. They are still there. Harry Edwards, who was one of the most notable healers of our time, when he was asked, because he had this ability to dematerialize tumors, all was documented, and when he was asked, he said, how do you do what you do? And he said, I simply heal with the power of God.
Yeah.
You see, he knew that power existed within him and around him, and was able to become a part of that process within it. You see, but within the sense of grief, you've got to give yourself time, you've got to give yourself love, and you've got to give yourself permission to allow that process to unfold, because it's happening in the spirit. There's a duality there, you see. You know, if I love you, I love you. You know, if I don't want to leave this world, I don't want to leave this world. But you cannot stem the tide of time. It's impossible. You cannot keep someone longer in this life. It doesn't happen that way. You cannot. And so,
oh, it just froze, Colin. Oh, it's just frozen slightly. I don't know if you are still there, Colin. Can you hear me?
You see.
Oh, there you go. We had a slight drop out of signal, but you're back.
Did we? I'm back.
Yeah. And I think we're gonna have a short break now, Colin. Anyway, give us a chance to have a sip of tea, and we'll be back after this break, guys. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Join us at the Bognor Regis Spiritualist Centre for a captivating mediumship demonstration on Saturday the 11th November from 7:30 p.m. Experience an evening of connection with the spiritual realms, featuring the talents of Bill Hughes, David Hale and Caroline Johnson. For more information and to book tickets, please visit bognorspiritualistcentre.co.uk.
The SPTV Divine Guidance Oracle Pack, a unique blend of inspiration and artistic beauty. Our captivating set of 78 cards combines the power of ancient archetypes, celestial guidance, and the essence of life itself to provide you with a unique tool for self-discovery, clarity, and transformation, all lovingly housed within an exclusive rigid box. The pack includes a booklet that delves into every card in detail, some of which carry dual meanings for deeper interpretation. The booklet also features 8 distinctive card spread layouts. Among these treasures, you'll discover 22 major arcana, 9 main archangels, 4 elements, and 40 life cards, each a work of art, radiating beauty and delivering profound messages that resonate deeply within your being. The SPTV Divine Guidance Pack, where beauty meets enlightenment. Pre-order today and unlock the extraordinary wisdom that awaits you. To be among the pioneers in experiencing our forthcoming collection and to reserve your pack in advance, as well as to access more details, including a sample audio description, kindly visit sptv.uk/cards. Nadija Bajami, a proficient strategic hypnotherapist, mind coach, grief educator, accomplished Reiki master, and gifted psychic medium, extends a warm invitation to join us on an exploration during a 4-week introductory mediumship course. As a special privilege, this extraordinary opportunity is being offered to our esteemed VIP members without any associated costs. Immerse yourself in the art of refining your innate talents and finding balance in communion with the realm of spirits. The course begins on Sunday, November 5th, at 7 p.m. via Zoom, and details will be placed in the VIP lounge. For more information on becoming a VIP, visit sptv.uk.
Tonight from 8 p.m, Bill Hughes and his guest will be demonstrating their mediumship abilities with free readings to our viewers.
Join Debbie Romero and guests tomorrow from 6 p.m, offering spiritual guidance, support and readings.
Welcome back, everybody. And tonight's guest is Minister Colin Bates. Welcome back, Colin. Thank you for being here tonight. We're covering a lot of topics around grief. Also, lots of you guys have been asking questions. We'll try to come to those questions if we can. But there's a great one here from Hallie's house. I still have a questioning around connecting to spirit, or whether we are just picking it up physically. What convinces you? Is it more than faith and or belief? Great question. Thank you for that.
It's a super question, really, because when we look at the physical aspect of communication or the psychic, I can pick up every piece of information relating to somebody in this life, but also I can become aware of information of somebody within the spirit world. So the true difference between the two is that the psychic doesn't live, it's facts and it's figures, full stop. Whereas the spirit world is multi-dimensional. The psychic world will give you information that you want to hear. It will not give you information that can help to support your life or help it to move forward, whereas the spirit world can, you see. And the feeling between the two as the medium is very, very different. So when I'm working with you psychically, I'm talking about your life, your light, your journey, what's happening within your world. And then all of a sudden, I'm then expanding my awareness, and then I become aware of a presence which tells me I'm then moving into the spirit world. And then there is a freedom within the communication. It's like you are touching life. It's the only way I can describe it. And that sense of life can communicate, it can speak to you, whereas the physical world can't.
Yeah.
So there is a difference
Yeah.
between the two, you see. I mean, it's such an interesting question, you see, because you can think so very hard of someone you know in the spirit world that I can see them standing beside you, but it's not the spirit, it's your thought form projecting within the auric field. So the difference is one lives, expresses itself, and the physical aspect is facts and figures. For me, it's flat.
Yeah.
All right. And so that's how I know the difference. And of course, the spirit world will talk to me. I'll feel an energetic conversation going on.
Yeah.
And as I listen with my power, they can directly communicate through a thought form within the mind, which is clairaudience, the ability to hear the spirit. But what a super question.
That was a super question. And clairaudience is a difficult one as well, Colin, isn't it?
Yes, because, well, clairaudience is never usually the first facet to come into being unless it's a natural one. Yeah. People like Joan of Arc that heard the voices come unto me to save France. She heard it, you know, really from a very early age. Yeah. Clairsentience, which is the feeling, is the strongest.
Yeah.
Connected to the clairsentience is the knowing, the claircognizance, then the seeing, and then through the knowing and the seeing, the hearing can come into being, because it's about building the power, you see.
Yeah.
And there's very specific exercises that you can do to bring clairaudience more to the fore. It used to be done with a seashell. Listen to the seashell, 1,000 sounds, and isolate one.
Yeah.
And the way that you can bring it on, sit in a room, go into the meditative state quietly and listen to the sounds in the room. Then project your awareness to the house, to the different rooms, and then sit by an open window and then listen to the sounds outside and isolate each one. And then if you want to learn and do it more, go into the garden of memories in the quiet, relive those wonderful conversations with those who are no longer of this world, create the atmosphere of the voice and live it in the meditative state. And then it makes you sensitive, you see, to the awareness of the power. And then another one, do you want another one? Go into a room full of people, isolate one conversation.
Yeah.
Reverend Janet No Havoc, many of you know her.
Yes.
Was one of the greatest loves of my life. For over 30 years we knew each other. Yeah. She started life as a Carmelite nun. And when I first knew her, she was still associated to the convent. And I was there with her one day, and it must have been, I don't know, 30 years ago plus. And she tells this story of how she used to sit within the chapel to listen to the whispers of heaven. Isn't that wonderful?
Wow. That is beautiful.
And I went with her and sat in the chapel, and you could hear the whispers of the prayer. And I never forget it to this day. She was one of the most loving and remarkable mediums it's ever been my joy to know.
Yeah, sadly I never met her, but I know she was dearly loved, and I know you've recently unveiled a bench for her at the afternoon
at the college. Yes, we did that long ago.
And that's another thing I was going to ask you later on, Colin. What legacy do you want to be remembered for?
Oh Lord, you know, I've no idea. If I could be remembered for loving kindness, then I think that would be the greatest accolade.
Yeah,
really. Yeah. I came into this world quietly, and I'll leave it very quietly. I know that much.
Well, that's something that's come on to me later in life, for trying to be kind. That is so hard when someone cuts you up in the street, on the road, or the traffic warden gives you the ticket. You know, loving kindness is a challenge, but smile.
Honestly, it really is. But one of the greatest things you can do, whether it is within adversity, whether it is with another person, whether it is within a situation, is to go into the loving kindness of compassion. It's the hardest thing you will ever do, but it's the greatest thing that you will ever do, because it will then give you the way of looking at a moment and a situation. I've just been and still going through one at the moment, and it's amazing how much it helps you to forgive, and then to just move into that endless moment where love is possible, and it's beautiful.
Guys, we're going to get to some of your questions. We'll quickly go through them if we can. We've got one here. Hi Stace, do you think that connecting with a loved one who's passed too soon after losing them from the physical delays the acceptance of loss and can prolongs the denial?
Well, I just have to say then that's a thought and a theory, but I think you just have to look at that and just say, well, that's an opinion, because I've known somebody communicate 5 minutes after they've gone. And then I've known someone who never did. You see, and that's also to do with the feeling and the need within it, from my perspective, you see. And it doesn't matter what I know or what I've done in life, I still need to know that my loved ones have landed and that they're okay.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't in any way hinder the grief process. It just enables you to just say, well, it's okay, you know. And again, what a beautiful question, because a question should really make you think, and that certainly does.
Thank you for that, Stace. We really appreciate it. And it's interesting because my lovely nan, my dad's mum, she has been gone since 1986, I believe, and not once has she ever communicated through anybody.
Do you know why that is?
Probably because she's sipping cocktails on a beach in the south of France somewhere.
It's because she's got no unfinished business, and everybody knew how much she was loved. And so often the communication comes through a need of some kind. And so she would have known how much she was loved. And therefore,
that's good.
Therefore, within herself, she would then begin to realise, well, you all know where I am. And I'm okay.
Oh, hi, Dawn. Dawn has asked an interesting thing that I've noticed through my development as a medium. I grieve less and for the shorter periods of time. Of course, I still cry. Of course, I get upset, but it's not as overwhelming as it was when I was younger. Me knowing they are still with us behind a veil gives me the strength I need to keep going. Trust that your loved ones are still with you. Sit quietly and invite them to sit with you and breathe. Thank you for that, Dawn. Beautiful.
Perfect.
Can I add a little caveat to that? Is there a danger though? And I've had similarities where contacts, like my best friend took his own life, and even now when I get a young man who comes in had a similar sort of situation, it hits me and I have to deal with that. How, you know, that's again, that's about your own individual experience. There's no hard or fast way of dealing with that, I don't think.
Well, there's a wonderful saying, all emotion flows through me and beyond me. And that as the medium, you will experience things that touch the very core of your being because of your own experiences. And how you work within that is an acceptance of it. But sometimes also, who greater to be the medium than somebody who would understand.
But I do worry that I've suppressed some of my grief because of that knowing and that belief system and knowing they're okay, that I maybe suppressed some, or maybe I should grieve more. I am a typical guy where, you know, stiff upper lip, kind of just got to get on with things, and having that faith, knowing they're with me, there is that worry that I've not dealt with that. I'm sure it will come out, Colin, as I've often said to myself. Well, I'm sure if it's going to come out, it's going to come out.
What is so interesting within that is that the catalyst of that final letting go may be something entirely different that then releases, which goes back to the healing, you see.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we teach within the healing modality is that within the power there may be an emotional release.
Yeah.
And that you need to work through that emotional release. And it may be that you're doing something and it can be totally unrelated, and then they come into your awareness and your mind, and it touches your heart in a certain way, and then it just comes. You see, I find that with myself, you see, because I just adore people. I always have done, and those that I've loved, I fierce.
I could feel the love between you and Janet. I could feel the love from
fierce.
I could feel the love. I'm sitting over here in Norfolk. Are you in Huntingdon? So it was a long way.
Yes.
So it was a long way.
But there's moments when something just seems to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
You know, and dreams, you see. I had a dream 2 weeks ago, I think it was, and I was standing on a bridge. Now, this is very unusual for me because normally I'm not aware of dreams. And I was gazing into the ocean, and I turned sideways, and who was standing beside me but lovely Janet.
Oh.
And she looked at me, and I just held her, and we both smiled at the same time. Now, something within that had a meaning, you see. And how we embrace that, you see, will stay with us, you see. But
I would be interpreting the bridge as that the two worlds coming together across the river.
Absolutely,
so,
you know, absolutely. And there were many times when we both sat together looking at the ocean.
Yeah.
So you'd got the ocean, you'd got the bridge.
Yeah.
And then you'd got that sense of opportunity because you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
Within that way, you see.
And that's how my father came to me when he'd been 5 years, Colin, before he came to me. And my sister had an experience with him. And I was like, well, where is he? Why do I not feel him around me? And then it was through a dream similar to yours. I hope that asks your question, Anne. Anne's asked a very question about what does it mean I had dreams of my loved one a lot?
Absolutely, because if you think about the somnambulistic state, you are not in the physical world. You're in an altered state of consciousness. Therefore, when better for me to speak to you, when you're not allowing the physical mind to interrupt the process. And you know, you've got the power of prophecy, seership, second sight, all within the sleep state.
Yes.
And many mediumistic facets touch the sleep state, you see. So when you go to bed and you just lay your head upon the pillow, send a thought to heaven and say, come and see me. And then you just lay your head to sleep and then dream sweet dreams.
Yeah, you're going to start me crying in a minute, Colin. Honestly, it's just so beautiful how you describe that. Kim has said, are you able to connect with someone who never believed in the spirit world? That's really interesting.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. Do we ever? Do we always? Invariably, I'll have somebody and they'll say, oh, my goodness, you were right. You were right. You were right. You were right.
Yeah.
You know, and what is also so wonderful within the simplicity of that is the joy in which they say, I can't believe it. I'm gardening in heaven. I'm free from pain. I'm here. You were right.
Yeah.
You see, and it's just extraordinary.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Colin, you touched on something earlier and my little radar went up, my spider senses. You said we're coming into the time of the oracle. Can you explain? We'll come back to that question at the time of it. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, the oracle dates back to ancient Greece, and you've got the Parthia, you see.
Okay.
And the Parthian oracle was always the priestess.
Yeah.
And depending upon who you were, you went to the priestess to ask the question.
Okay.
You see. And more, the role of the medium is answering the unspoken question. You see.
Ah.
And so we're expected not just to know about the spirit, we're expected to know about everything and anything.
Yeah.
And the word demand, I want, you see, do this for me. But actually that doesn't work, because what you want is very different to what you need.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah.
But we are coming more into the time of the oracle where we're expected to have a greater knowledge of everything.
Yeah.
And when I speak of the oracle, it touches many aspects: the power of prophecy, second sight, seership, scrying, all the ancient practices of mediumship, reading the fire, seeing the shapes in the flames, pyromancy, tasseography, reading the tea leaves.
Oh, okay.
The clouds, you see, everything used to have meaning, you know, within it. You know, what's so fascinating, all of this was a part of life, you see. But then you've got the conclave of Nicaea, 353 or 352 AD, where you've got Constantine, the first Holy Roman Byzantium emperor, where the Bible was written, and in the stroke of a pen it was all outlawed.
It was, absolutely.
See? And from that moment, what was written was the priest was the only one who had the direct access to God, and you should not commune with the spirit. But they were very clever people, because it brought together this knowledge, you see, and brought the people together in a certain way.
Yeah.
But they were even more clever because they built all their churches on the sites of pagan worship.
Right.
So where the power was, they built the churches, you see.
That makes a lot of
But
sense.
up until that point, people used to go to see the wise woman of the village.
Right.
That person who lived just a little bit separate, you see.
Yeah.
And then they would ask the unspoken question. They would bring their thoughts. What have you got to tell me today?
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah.
And so the power of prophecy, seership, the ability to travel through mind by the power of thought.
Yes.
And it touches time within it. Nostradamus.
Yeah.
Now there was a boy.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And he used to sit within the trance state in a bowl, looking at a bowl of water with ink within it. And then he would propel his mind to the future.
Yeah.
You see. And what used to come was something called quatrains, which is 4 lines of verse. Now, the Sibylline writings of ancient Rome were also in rhyme.
Okay.
And so was the prophecies of a wonderful lady called Mother Shipton, who some of you may have heard of, very famous in her day in the 1400s.
Okay, I was going to say, that one's passed me by.
Oh, has it?
I'm keeping up with everything apart from that one.
She predicted the Great Fire of London, the
Okay.
dissolution of the monasteries,
Yeah.
the victory of Henry VIII over France, the defeat of the Spanish Armada.
Wow.
And she was known throughout Europe and even beyond.
Wow.
And she used to go into this trance-like state, and her utterances would be the prophecy. And she couldn't write, but her husband used to write down the prophecies.
Wow.
She predicted the date and time of her own death. And in Yorkshire, part of Yorkshire, you can still visit Mother Shipton's cave, where she used to live. Very famous.
In Yorkshire? So she was a Yorkshire lass?
She was a Yorkshire lass.
Oh.
And she was never a mother, but because of the love that she had for the people, they gave her the honorary title of Mother.
Oh,
Mother
wow.
Shipton.
Oh, wow.
And Nostradamus, well, his prophecies are still coming into being. Even Edgar Cayce, of course.
Yes, Edgar Cayce
used to use sleep state as a way of diagnosis.
Yeah.
And he was known as the father of holistic medicine.
Yeah. He's very influential. Very, very influential man. Of more recent history as well.
Yes, and there you've got the hypnagogic and the hypnopompic state.
Yeah.
One is the sleep to awaking, and one is the waking to a sleep. Okay. And in that moment, all of a sudden, all knowledge comes to us, you see. So the oracle touches loads of things. Madame Blavatsky.
Yeah.
Really, she spoke greatly about the Akashic records.
Yeah.
And also of something called the wise mind, that there is within us a place of knowing and knowledge.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, because I struggle with that idea of the Akashic being, people talk about it being a great library, but surely that's a human concept. It's not an actual truth.
Well, so it's all a concept, and however it's created, because the original concept was tablets of light.
Yeah.
And then the theory was that it's within the auric field.
Yeah.
And that everything within the auric field of the past, the present, and a potential of the future lies within it. But you have to be careful with that one, because the spirit world are very clear that the future is a window that occasionally opens and allows us a glance of that which can be.
Okay.
And that the present is created through the thoughts and the actions of the past, and your future is created by your thoughts and actions of today. Isn't that marvelous?
So being, as Eckhart Tolle talks about, being in the power of now, being in this moment, being present, you shaping your future.
Absolutely.
And I've kind of got in my head, I've pondered, then surely our future is the choices that we choose.
Yes.
It comes down to our choices.
Well, because I don't believe in predestiny to that degree, that we're just merely living through a set of events. Because if we were, what would be the point?
Absolutely. Where would there be the fun in that?
So I believe, and I've often seen this when I do different types of readings, such as spiritual assessments.
Yeah.
You can see the pathway of life, and whether, for instance, mediumship and the spirit is a part of that journey.
Yeah.
You can then see where it's diverted, but then you can see where it's rejoined.
Yeah.
So free will and destiny are two very strong points of discussion and debate.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Colin, I can talk to you all night. Yvonne has quickly asked a question. When you've lost someone and you go to bed not wanting to wake up, does this hurt your loved one? So I guess you're saying if you're really in so much grief and pain, that's a difficult one.
Well, it is a difficult one, isn't it? Because, I'm here, you're there.
Yeah.
Why am I not there with you?
Yeah.
And, that's perfectly understandable. But the journey of the soul is the experience of the physical life and all that is within it. And so there is a journey before, there is a journey during, and there is a journey after. One thing that we are absolute in knowledge is that you and I will meet again.
Yes.
And that however much that pain is, we still have to live, we still have to experience within life, you see. And I think that you just have to be kind. You have to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
In the understanding that as I live, as I am, as I be, so too am I within the spirit.
Yeah.
Because there's an adjustment there. There's got to be. It's not, I always think sometimes it would be lovely, and I say this to the spirit world, I say, can I just pop up and have a cup of tea?
Oh, it would be lovely.
See you all, and then I don't necessarily want to stay, but just to see how it all comes together for you.
Yeah.
And then you can just then send me down again, or up again, or sideways again, wherever you are.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, there's been many people such as Andrew Jackson Davis who did have many experiences within the Summerland.
Yeah. Yeah.
But would it be grand?
Yeah.
And you know, I tell you a technique.
Oh, yes, please.
Think of me in my old familiar place, for that is similar to where I am and that which is created.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of the text, thou preparest a place before me. Therefore, the spirit naturally gravitates to that which is created through life.
Yeah.
And that the similarity is there until you reach a stage of your own soul evolution where you no longer need that.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I remember a time and moment when I went with my mother to see my lovely grandmother, her sister, my granddad and everybody sitting around a table. And I still remember my father being at that table. And then when I go into my prayerfulness, I go back to that room, to the table.
Oh.
And I'm sitting there with everybody around me, having a good old chat. You see, because it's your own meeting point of the spirit. You see, you create that.
Yeah.
Through your own memories.
Yeah.
And isn't that a wonderful thought?
That is a beautiful thought. That is a beautiful thought.
You know, because to a degree, when I talk to the spirit, they speak of the similarity within moving from this life to the next, that there can be great similarities between the two.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah.
And so within that, you know, and I hear so often from the spirit saying, well, I'm gardening in heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
They just loved pottering around and gardening. Well, I'm in the Elysian fields. I'm gardening, and I'm creating things of beauty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So think of me in my old familiar place. There's a very famous poem.
Yeah. Or what?
Christine Rossetti, I believe. Think of me in my old familiar place, my old familiar surroundings. I've merely slipped into the other room. I haven't got it right, but it's similar.
Yeah, yeah. And that analogy of just slipping into that other room. And I remember when I had first contact with my dad in a dream, I was in my house. I grew up with my parents. And I remember there was the window was open. My dad was the other side of the window and I was inside the house and he was the other side. I couldn't see him, but it was so vivid. I could hear his voice.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was real.
Yeah. Yeah.
No question, you see.
Yeah. Oh gosh, so many people are asking questions and I'm so
yes.
It's lovely guys sharing this.
When I was about 12, sitting on the doorstep with my dad, and what he said to me.
Oh.
And so whenever I need to speak to my papa, because I adored him, he was lovely.
Yeah.
I go and sit on the step. The sun is shining. I can see his eyes, and we have a conversation. Beautiful. Yeah,
you're gonna do that to me. Me and my dad fishing. So I'm gonna
stop. Well, there. What better?
Yeah. I'm going to stop. I'm going to move on quickly. MJ Reynolds. Hello, MJ. I'm living my life. Grief just keeps me hostage, keeps me from living my best life. How do you let it all go without letting them go? That in itself, can you let them go, Colin? Because they never want to. They're with us.
Well, they are always with us, and they are a part. And this is also where we have to also acknowledge our own limitations within what we do and what we create. And sometimes we just need to go and speak to someone.
Yeah.
And talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can then help us through that time and through that understanding. as well as our own connection to the spirit.
Yeah.
But when you are in the midst of it, you see, it's so difficult to see the way forward, you see.
Yeah.
And so I always say, speak to someone who knows and who understands implicitly within that. But what I often find within readings, and I talk about different things, so I talk about everything really, is that when we're going through something, what we don't always look at is how far we've come.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we always seem to focus upon how far we've got to go.
Yes.
But when we stop a moment and look how far we've come in our understanding within the love that's been created, it can sometimes give us the strength to continue.
Yeah.
And I often see that with people, like I see the trees and all of a sudden I see a beam of sunshine coming through the trees and say, well, you know, you may not feel it, but I can see how far you've come.
Yeah.
You see, and the love that you share and the memories that you share will always be a part of you and I, because it's called life. But you would be surprised how when you speak to the spirit through the power of the heart, how they hear you. What you then need to do is to give them a chance to answer you.
Yeah.
And that's when things like synchronicity, a thought, a feeling, an emotion, or an inspiration can remind you and can be their way of saying, I remember when, and I love you.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
You've got to give yourself time, but you've also got to just also give yourself permission to receive.
Yeah.
You see, because there could be 100 messages you're missing.
Yeah. 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 Oh, yeah, you keep touching my heart as well, Colin. It's I keep thinking of my dad. He's obviously coming in.
Well, maybe you see, because I often find, you see, when I'm talking to someone and they start speaking about someone, they're there. Are they there because we're speaking of them? Are they there because we've opened the heart, or are they always there?
Yeah. Yeah. Cindy's just asked a really good question. Grief or guilt? Do you consider them walls that hold us from closure?
Well, as I've said earlier, often we have guilt.
Yes.
Over many different situations.
Yeah.
You know, not being there, not feeling as if I didn't do enough, or I wasn't there, or I didn't get to say goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah.
And universally, when the spirit come, they will always touch upon it and they'll say, well, actually, that's not quite right. Yeah. You know, and often the one that I love is, I never got the chance to say goodbye and I'm saying hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm still here. I'm still with you.
Again, it's an individual process.
Yeah.
But we all hold on to things.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who we are.
Oh yes.
We all hold on to different aspects, and we all have that one question: what I would give for 5 minutes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, but give yourself 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Be within the quiet.
Yeah.
For, you know, within the silence, the peace and the joy and the love of the heart, the presence of the spirit will gather.
There's one thing
By loving kindness is also a way of acceptance.
Yeah.
I mean, we never, you know, my father, love him, passed on Christmas Eve 1999, and there is not a day go by when he does not touch my mind in some way.
Yeah.
And I think that the best explanation is wrap it up in love and find that place in the heart which is infinite. You see, in Sanskrit, the heart is the castle of Brahman, which is the light of creation.
Yeah.
And where forever love and light dwell, nothing else can exist. It is infinite, the power of the spirit. And each one of us is infinite in our ability to embrace it, you see.
Yeah, that's so, it fills me through so much, with so much joy thinking about that quote. And if we could always remember that, it would be a beautiful thing. But we are having a human experience, so we do need to forgive ourselves when we slip out of that mindset.
Yes.
Mo's put, so I'm just going to give you a compliment. Mo's put, great show, Colin. Thank you so much. And Hallie's also put, I could listen to you all day, Colin. It's been lovely listening to your thoughts. That's awesome.
Lovely.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
It is, but it's wonderful just to talk of such things, you see, because it's talking of life, you see, because there is no death.
Yeah.
It is just this great journey, you see, and cherish the times you have, embrace the memories that you created, and find the joy within those moments, but never be afraid to let go and to grieve.
The hardest thing I find, Colin, is the voice. Do you remember your dad's voice?
Yes.
And the same for me. I remember my dad's voice, and so many people say, "Oh no, I don't remember that." So it's, I think the voice is so important to remember.
Well, it's that personal, and that's why you see that when we talk to each other, you are manifesting the power through the energy of the voice.
Yeah. Can I just thank you? It's been absolutely brilliant, and it's just been a lovely evening. We can't thank you enough for being on, and I've just been encapsulated by our conversation. I'm so sorry, guys, if I've missed your questions. I hope our conversation has answered a lot of your questions around grief and loss, and knowing that life is eternal. Our loved ones are always with us. But before we go, Colin, what is next for you? Where can we find you? I know you're obviously a course organizer.
mediumcolinbates.com, easiest one in the world. And then mediumcolinbates@gmail.com.
Brilliant.
And I keep very busy, but I don't travel like I used to. I used to be global. Isn't that marvelous?
Yes.
But now I'm more of a homebod.
Well, we have, since COVID. Well, we have a wonderful technology now, so why do we need to
Well, I mean, I've just embraced the wonder web, and it's just lovely, you see. So I do a lot of my teaching online, and that is the most amazing thing, because science now acknowledges non-local reality. Time and space does not exist. We are within this one moment of consciousness. So I can be global, and I can be with everybody in every single country all at once.
Wonderful.
and so that's, but I'm still at the college. I'm there. It's my week in 2 weeks. And that's wonderful to be together in the physical sense. But you know, in the spiritual sense, we are totally interconnected through the love of creation. Always.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for listening. It's been absolutely wonderful.
It's been just so lovely to speak to you again, Paul, and to meet everybody, and just to have this time of the heart. So thank you so much, and everybody, live. Just live. Live, love, and laugh. And dance, because they could be coming for you in the morning. So you can just dance anyway.
Dance anyway, because you never know when they're coming. Absolutely. Live for every day. Thank you so much. Hallie's asked quickly which college. It's the Arthur Finley College in the UK at Stansted Hall.
Just do a Google. They're always around somewhere.
The magic of the Oracle Google. Okay. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Take care. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, my dear one. And do take care. And hope it's not too long. And then we have a chat again. It'd be lovely.
Thank you, Colin. I'm just going to ask Richard. Richard, are we back in 2 weeks? Because I've got our guest in my mind. I just wanted to share that with people. Richard's just checking the busy schedule for me. I believe we're back in 2 weeks. I'm not 100% sure. It could be next week, but it could also be definitely in 2 weeks. And we have which is the 5th of October, and we have another lovely guest. It is Dr. Lottie. I'm sure it's Valentine, not Valentin. If I'm wrong, forgive me. But this wonderful lady has had a couple of near-death experiences. And she's come back after her experiences with some special gifts. She's now a medium and doing a lot of mediumistic work. So I can't wait to interview that lovely lady as well. So thank you, everybody, for supporting us. Stay tuned, because we've got Bill Hughes coming up as well very, very soon. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you very soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Colin.
My pleasure. Bye.